I am the New England Psychic Medium. I can be found at newenglandpsychicmedium.com, and that has all my social media links. I am going to be discussing a book in my topic, Spiritual Development with the New England Psychic Medium. This is a series of videos I'm doing, so they all kind of link together. This would be video 3, I think, depending on how I organize it. Who knows? You'll see. They'll all be on the page. The information, because it's all in my book, is copywritten. So please be careful if you're going to share. Make sure to to cite the book. The part I want to discuss right now is negative entities. This has been a huge thing lately, a very big subject, because I'm getting a lot. So every once in a while, or every week, I get a theme in my readings with my clients. And this theme this month has been about judgment, about understanding and accepting our shadow self. Our shadow self is a part of us that still needs healing, the part of us that is dark, the part of us that kind of pulls us to the darker side. And then we have people who divulge in that dark side. So we have people who perfectly fear it ridiculously to the point where they never want to try anything at all. And then we have people who kind of, I consider it like naively walking into a very dangerous neighborhood. Like, if you know that a neighborhood is dangerous and you know that there are people there who have raped and abused and been terrible to people and have guns and shoot and kill people, you don't just hang out and wander. You don't just at 12 o'clock decide, I told nobody where I'm going, I'm just gonna go take a stroll. No. Now, I do not believe in fear tactics. I despise it, in fact. I believe that knowledge is power, so I like to teach people. So something I'm going to explain now. Let's first talk about different souls. And this is not just our soul. This is not the souls that are incarnating our bodies. This is more about negative entities. So let's talk about entities that incarnate Earth without bodies, like hauntings, orbs, shadow people, negative energies. Let's talk about those. Leeches. We have Grand Council. Grand Council does not allow these souls to incarnate on their own. So these negative lower level energy souls that thrive in chaos, dysfunction, and violence are not allowed to jump into bodies on purpose, because Grand Council knows that they are just destroyers. They are, like I say, ravenous wolves, but they don't have packs. They don't have teams. They don't work for anybody. They actually thrive on destruction. That is their food source. So by ripping things apart, it's like ripping two atoms apart. You get explosive energy, and they eat that. So fear is a form of food. Anger is a form of food. All lower level energies feed them. So they sneak into bodies. And they do this by being invited by people who don't know what they're doing. They do this by sneaking into people who are having mediumship connections inappropriately. Now, this is why a lot of people judge mediums and say that mediums are functioning off of lower level energy and letting demons in. In a way, they are right. In a way that is actually very accurate. If you cannot see lower level energies and you are not aware or properly trained on how to connect to souls, then you are very well could be letting in lower level energies when you open up to your connection. The reason being, so I see gifts in people, and I am a gift activator. So I do this through my training process, and I do this through my spiritual development group, and that can all be, you can find information for all that on my website. But mediums actually have a gateway right here above their crown. They use their gift by opening this gateway and calling in beings from other dimensions. Now, if you are untrained, unaware, and not knowing what you're doing, you could leave this wide open. And in a way, you could pull anything through. You might be like, oh, is there something up there that needs to speak to me? And that could be anything. So essentially, you're just, like I said, going into a bad neighborhood, being like, anybody want to have a chat? That could be very, very dangerous. You're setting yourself up, and you're setting up the people around you for these lower level attachments, because they are literally waiting for somebody to open the gate so that they can get through illegally past Grand Council. So people who are untrained and unaware of their gifts or their abilities or how to open properly are actually leaking lower level energies through in their connections, mediumship connections. Another form of leaks are inviting. A lot of lost souls. Let's start first. Let me explain this first. So when we have a lot of past life trauma, we feel very depleted. Our soul is so ripped, broken, shattered, that our connection to our source, our connection to our creator is weak. It means our soul is starving. So our soul then goes to our local energy and environment. They look for anything that could feed them. They look for anything local that can kind of respond to that starvation because they don't understand it. They don't know that their soul needs healing. They don't know that that's something they can do. They don't know that that's even an option. At that level of desperation, we are drowning. These are what we call toxic people. Toxic people take from their environment. They take from their relationships. They take from their work, their people, their environment, their life, their food. They eat a lot of heavy, dense food because it's high in energy, even if it's lower, dense energy. And they're what we call toxic people, toxic relationships. They're simply taking too much from others because they are starving at soul level. So they're trying to make up for that. Sometimes this also looks like overeating. They're over-consuming food looking for that fulfillment because they're not getting that fulfillment on soul side. So when I have a client like this, they really have to want to change. They have to be desperate for change because there's always work involved in change. So when we heal the body, when we heal the soul, they still have to change their patterns. Their behavioral patterns created by the starvation are something they have to retrain physically. And you have to do that on your own through free will. Like I said, we have free will. We are beings. We are human. So we have to merge the two. Even if our soul is healed, we still have to will ourselves into better behavioral patterns to counteract that healing, to complement that healing. Now, it's a lot easier to heal or to make better behavioral patterns when our soul finally has enough food and our soul is healed. It is much easier. So we get to a place where we are functioning better. But when we are in a place of that deep desperation, we look out to anything that can heal us, anything that can give us a speck of hope. And usually those are lower level entities. We look in desperation to allow anything in, and that does include lower level energies. And because they are so low at soul level, because their soul level energy is so depleted, they're very easy to inhabit. So these people that are suffering are actually easy targets for lower level inhabitants. These lower level inhabitants are usually gremlin-like. They're usually kind of just a nuisance and annoying. And sometimes they actually are really intense demonic spirits. Now, an intense demonic incarnation is going to ask you to kill yourself, is going to ask you to separate yourself from your family, is going to tell you you're not worth love, you're not worth connection, you're not worth work, is going to entice you to eat poorly, is going to entice you and push you into horrible relationships. They're going to push you into anything that feeds them. And this is important to understand, as we said earlier. They feed off of lower level energy, drama, anger, depression, abuse. All of this lower level energy is food for them. But if you get strong, if you get healthy, if you start healing, then they cannot feed off of the higher vibrational energy, and they have to now start fighting you off. So you only make a good host if you are harming yourself, whether it be drugs, alcohol, bad relationships, dangerous environments. Those are all making you a very easy target for an inhabitant. So you have to understand that if you're at a point where you're having a very hard time overcoming things like that, it is likely because you have been inhabited, because your soul is so depleted. Now, I know this is kind of a controversial topic because a lot of people will say, well, that's just blaming somebody else for your behavior and everything else. But it's just something I've seen, and it's something I've come across, and it's something I actually have to work with a lot. So like I said, we still have will. We still have free will and power. We still need to make good decisions. We still have to be accountable for our decisions. This all starts with accountability, saying, no, I'm in charge. I'm the being in charge of this body. I am going to take responsibility. I am going to run this vessel. Now that is free will, and that is self-work, and that is taking accountability. We do need that in our transformation process. The person has to be sick and tired of the life that they're living and has to really, really, really want transformation. But the thing is that most people do not see lower level energies. And I want to explain this too. Seeing lower level energies or beings, or seeing souls at all, is actually a gift. Not all of us have that ability. And the reason being because most of us don't understand it. So if we saw these beings, we'd be totally terrified and we wouldn't know what to do with it. So the reason why some of us see it is because we can handle it. We can now, and the people who do see these lower level energies have the ability to heal and remove them if they've been taught. So our job is to now remove and heal this person and send this being back to where they belong, which is obviously is not Earth or your body. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of people will say, well, it's not a negative being or energy because they don't see it, and they just kind of blame the person for their actions. And I mean, like I said, the person has to take accountability too. It's a team effort. Everybody's feeding the being. Everybody there is involved in the process. So yes, things have to change if you want change, if you want transformation, if you want to heal yourself. Everybody has to take accountability in a situation like that. But what really gets to me is that so many people fantasize this idea that demons are somehow enticing or exciting or okay to mess with. And it kind of aggravates me because you're not just affecting yourself, you're affecting Earth. You're affecting everybody of Earth, because you might be strong enough and healed enough to kind of shoo off an incarnation, but what it does to it is it clings to the weakest of our population, to the elderly, to the struggling, to the suffering, to children. Those are the people who suffer from these. And a lot of people really believe that these lower level energies are coming in to heal them, to help them, to be their friend, to be their guide, and that is absolute BS. A lower level energy only cares about itself. Its job is literally to destroy things. It might use you as a host, but it's also destroying you. So you need to always understand that and be aware of that. Like, it's going to keep you around long enough to eat off of your energy, and then it will eventually destroy you too. So in no way, shape, or form or is that actually a good thing, really. But another thing, people who have that gift also sometimes get lost in their job. And let me explain this. If your job is a spy and you have to infiltrate, let's say, foreign territory where they are doing illegal things, you have to take on that persona. You have to really, really become the people you are trying to convince and in your undercover work. We have beings with that job. We have high vibrational energetic beings that are coming down to Earth as saviors to take on that very intense job, and it's called a cloak. They wear this cloak so that they can infiltrate the lower level energies, they can find and see them, and they can remove them. Many times these beings with this job do get lost in their mission. And just like that, just like a spy could get lost in the life that they created and the connections that they've made, they could get lost in their mission. A being can get lost there, and in that way they feed the negative entities instead of actually removing them. So they get to a place where they're kind of working against their job, their soul's purpose. They get stuck. They kind of they lost their soul's connection. They lost their purpose, and they lost why they were there to begin with. So they do get lost, and they do feed them, and they do allow them through. And these are people that really resonate with the lower level energies. They are people that might run cults because it's almost like they have such a strong connection to these beings because they can see them, feel them, and connect with them. They were supposed to use that job to get rid of them, but now they have gotten stuck in that lifestyle. They enjoy the power. They've gotten accustomed to that power, and now they're becoming like cult leaders, and they get accustomed to that attention and that energy, so they can take, they get lost in their mission. essentially. So that is another part. Let's see. Another thing I want to explain. We have our universe, and then we have a barrier, and then we have the other side. The other side is the exact equal and opposite of our side. This is where lower level energies thrive. This is where they live. The barrier separates us, but we do connect to the barrier. So that's why we do get leaks in between, and that's why it's so easy to call in these souls. Now, eventually, we are going to detach from the barrier. When we have our own energetic battery, when we have our own power source. But the way it currently works is I drew a diagram, a really intense, ridiculous diagram, but I will explain. Okay. See the symbol here of infinite? It's the infinity symbol. So this is like a big giant battery. Essentially, we have the positive side of the battery and the negative side of the battery and the barrier that separates us for safety. Black holes in the universe are actually doorways to the other side. So it's the exact equal and opposite of our energy. And the reason is because if something implodes, it goes over here, implodes, goes over here. So energy goes back and forth and creates an infinite cycle or system of energy which fuels the universe. So yes, this is necessary. We have both, and that is necessary. What is not necessary is to keep calling them through. That is not necessary. That is causing us problems. So although, there is some kind of respect there for the fact that we do function off of each other, and this is like, as is above, so is below. It is that beautiful system of balance, that beautiful system of harmony, that beautiful system of equal and opposite in every way. So we have to understand that there is a respect there because we do need this kind of system. But we have to stop calling them through because we are having a hard time ascending our planet because our planet is so infiltrated with these negative entities. These lines that I have written in are supposed to be planes. As we ascend or raise our vibration in our star or planet, we raise the plane. So if you've had 1,000 lives where you've been really aggressive, violent, murderer, vicious person, then you essentially are lowering yourself every time a little bit and a little bit and a little bit every time. It's not like you were bad one time so they send you over to the other side. It's an intense system of constantly being a horrible person, constantly functioning in chaos and disorder and harm, and then they will put you where you belong with chaos, disorder, and harm. If that is how you're functioning, then that is where you belong. Some people attribute this to hell. Now, it feels like hell to us because we function off of order. It's not actually hell. It's just the equal and opposite. That is how they function. So if we're going to be acting in disorder and chaos and destroying ourselves and each other, then we get sent to the other side of the barrier. Earth's really thick vibration means that it's very, very hard to ascend as a whole. Like I said, there are planets that have an easy time ascending the planes because their density is so high that they're already naturally high vibration and they can incarnate 3 times and the souls are all knowing. So Earth is really complicated when we think about it. If it takes 1,000 incarnations, it's very, very hard to do. So, in the same way, like a planet can be born here and decide to raise their vibration. There could be one person that says, well, I don't know if this is for me. I'm going to keep raising my vibration and working on myself because I don't really like hurting others. So in a way, they would keep ascending their vibration. They can pass through the barrier. We can pass through the barrier both ways, equal and opposite. If we can lower our vibration through violence and destruction, then they can higher their vibration through compassion and understanding. So this system is really just a system of attuning to your vibration. It's not a system of punishment. And that is something that gets me too, because like I said, there's a lot of bias in a lot of the religions and belief systems out there today. And we look at this and we say, well, we're being punished for our behavior, but it's not. We are actually just being put in the place that resonates with our vibration. So if we are acting this way, then we will naturally resonate with this vibration here on this lower side, if that is who we are. So that is what's important to understand. Now, when we talk about this huge spiritual shift, which is called the rapture, It's actually a disconnect from the barrier. It means that we're going to separate ourselves so that we can have more distance between us, so that we can have less leaks. And that means that we've created our own power systems where we no longer need to be attached to this cycle. So we have created enough, and this is a complicated system I'm not going to get into, that's not even in my book. But we've created enough power systems in our multiverse or universe. This is, this could be our universe, and this could be the multiverse, and this could be the centerverse. Either way, we all have an equal and opposite. So we've created enough power in our universe that we no longer need this cycle here. So we now function in a spherical cycle, in a sphere, in a hole, in a circle. We're now refunctioning our energy this manner instead of this way. So that's important to understand. That is part of the reason why we're trying to finally ascend and transcend this process here that has us stuck. The stuckness is that no matter if we let these beings come through or not, people are still inviting them through, and they're causing a lot of issues. And it's a great thing because everything based on fear. So I channeled this message during the full moon. It's on my page, New England Psychic Medium on Facebook. And I channeled this beautiful message at the beginning of the year that said that everything based in fear would crumble, because 2019 is all about creating long-lasting structures at soul's purpose. So soul's purpose means that these belief system based, all these belief systems based on fear are going to deteriorate. They're going to crumble. And they have been, but it's definitely something that's expedited this year, as 2020 is actually a huge transformational year for holistic healers and gifted souls, and for soul's purpose, and for spiritual growth. We have to reach a deadline, 2020. 2020 is a time where we really have a mass awakening, and that is a time where we're going into another shift. So that's the reason why we feel so pushed, really. And that's the reason why all these systems of fear are collapsing. But a system of fear, a lot of organized religions are systems of fear. They tell you if you don't behave, you're going to be punished and destroyed. You need to forgive, and you need to seek forgiveness, and you need to punish yourself, or you will be punished, and you have to behave a certain way to their regulations and rules, or you will be punished. And in a way, they were just using fear to get you to higher your vibration. But that system is now collapsing. We are at a point of free will, and we have to understand that through evolution, through our connection to our higher self, we are going to ascend and create a better world. And it doesn't have to do with punishment or judgment. We have released that. That is part of the crumbling system. But in this new freedom, we have a lot of rebels that think it's appropriate to be connecting to these lower level energies just for fun. And it's kind of counterproductive. So if we're not going to function out of fear, then we need to function out of knowledge. Knowledge being that you're letting in lower level energies, and it is counterproductive to our mass ascension, to our awakening, to our healing of Earth. So we need to be very aware of this, and we need to understand. And one of the ways we also let these beings in is through forceful astral travel. As I mentioned, if you have the gift to astral travel, it means that you are doing it consciously through free will. We all astral travel in our sleep. Our souls don't need sleep. So as our physical bodies are sleeping, our souls might say, hey, I'm bored, I'm going to go for a ride. They go to other dimensions, they study, they go to classes. It's a long story. I shouldn't get into that. But I kind of work kind of like guardian angel style. I'll go out and try to save people. And sometimes I'm aware, sometimes I'm not. The reason why we aren't aware sometimes is because it will stress us right out of sleep, because they're pretty intense missions. Like, for example, I was shot. And that's because I was jumping into bodies and trying to save them from a mass shooter. So that's my astral travel. Or I go and I teach a class. I'm actually a teacher on the other side. I'm a super old soul. So a lot of people come to me from a lot of different dimensions and planes, and I actually teach classes on the other side too. So that's my version of astral traveling. But what happens is, if we have the ability to astral travel, somebody who is not aware of what astral travel is or how to do it properly might wander. And like I said, we don't just wander into bad neighborhoods and expect not to be pickpocketed knowing that it's a bad neighborhood. We have to be conscious and we have to be aware, and we have to never wander without intention. Some people will even do a guided meditation and not realize that that guided meditation is letting in lower level energies because they're doing it in a wandering way. Now, I have a guided meditation on my YouTube. And in that system, we are only connecting to higher self. We have a very direct intention. Therefore, we are protected by lower level energies. So we have to understand that intention is a form of protection. If we are just opening a door, anybody can come through. We need to be sure about which door we're opening and who we are calling through. And because of these ways we let in, those are other ways we let in lower level energies. Now, astral traveling to any dimension, any realm, any plane, you will bring back visitors. You will bring back lower level entities. And it doesn't mean that you're the one that's suffering. Like I said, you could be bringing them back for your family members, for your children, for people in your family who are suffering and not well or sick, people whose souls are suffering and they're not healed. And they might cling to them and they might now destroy their lives. So it's important to understand that you should really not astral travel without intention. If you want to, like I said, I train people in their gifts, but the way that I kind of loosely train them without them having their gifts or without them taking the class would be to use the guided meditation as much as possible. Use the guided meditation to higher self. At higher self guides you into places that are safe, and you do it with intention. And you ask higher self questions, and you ask to view, not enter. So you can still view planes, and it's like you're in a protective screen. You're not entering the plane. Now you have to also understand that when we are wandering, it's like we're tourists. We're going to tourist places set up to be intentionally deceiving. So we can go and we could be like, oh, this gorgeous place is so beautiful, I'm going to keep going back. And it is literally like peripheral vision. It is one version of that dimension that they have set up that way to attract wanderers so that they can cling, they can grab on, and they can go back home with you. So people need to understand this too. I've seen it a lot. People will be like, well, it's a beautiful place. I love going there. I go every time I meditate. I astral travel to this dimension. And that can be very scary because, like I said, you are being influenced by beings that know what they're doing. They do this for a living. They are very, very good at what they do. They cling and take a ride so they can come to Earth. They know the way that it works, and they know that you are naive of their intentions and their system. And many times, because we don't see lower level beings or energy, we never even notice they come home with us. What we do is we feel different. We feel tired. We feel exhausted. We feel like we don't have any more energy. We might be doing more drugs or inhibitors. We might be drinking more. We might be eating like crap. We might be staying up all night and not sleeping, because that is a form of weakening the body, which is essentially allowing souls to inhabit you and take over. So it's important to understand that these habits are in fact signs that you have been inhabited and you have picked up something in your travels. And it's actually so much more common than people think. Usually we have lower level energies or beings, but the more intense beings are definitely more aggressive. It's very easy to hide these lower level little guys in your energy, and most of us never even find them. Sometimes we live our whole lives with these little guys attached, and they look like little tiny leeches. They just kind of cling to us like this little gremlin ball, and it kind of just sucks on our energy. So they do deplete us over time, but those ones aren't as aggressive. What I'm talking about are the demonic possessions. Those can be very intense. So again, for more information on this or any of my other topics, I would check out my book, Spiritual Development with the New England Psychic Medium, and I check out my website, newenglandpsychicmedium.com, and I have all the links to my social media pages, and I really look forward to any questions anybody might have. And like I said, most of the information is actually right in there because they're all copywritten in my book and in my system. So I look forward to sharing my information and looking for any questions. Thanks for watching the videos.